Hello, welcome to JIBRIN Angle on Oweleke TV. My name is JIBRIN and this is my angle. We have today again our regular and special guest, Barrister Austin Manta, joining us to discuss the current affairs of the day with regard to Nigeria. We shall be talking about several issues, but let's start with the Kano State Emirate debacle. Barrister, the Federal High Court just gave a ruling nullifying, was it on Thursday or so, nullifying the enthronement of Samitsu Lamido Sanusi. I don't know, probably faulting the process that leads to the nullification or the disbandment of other emirate councils. I don't know, we have discussed this before. I think I already know where you stand, but now that the Federal High Court is coming from a different angle, that probably me personally, I didn't expect, I think you should expect that. Are they still wrong in this regard? Sorry, before that, thank you for joining us once again, Barrister. I forgot to actually welcome you.
Thank you very much, please.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, the Kano debacle, as you call it, is really not a debacle in the legal sense, and the High Court has not really said something different from what I said. The angle the High Court came from is that the governor's action in installing a new emir of Kano came after the High Court, the Federal High Court, had already granted an injunction against the government for doing that. So the court set aside all the actions of the governor that came after, in their own opinion, after the order of injunction had been given.
Now, the order of injunction, when was that? Was it given before the House of Assembly passed it into law?
That is precisely where the problem comes from, because all these things happened on the same day.
Oh, wow.
Don't forget, the court did not nullify the law that the State House of Assembly has passed and which the governor has assented.
Okay.
The court said the law is valid.
Okay.
The order does not affect the law, which factually means that the 4 emirates were dissolved, the 4 emirs were removed. What the court is saying that after the court had made an order of injunction, any action taken by the government, being aware of the order of the court, any action taken after that is invalidated.
So what is, I don't understand, what is the court saying here now? Now, if the court is not against the process that led to the governor's action, which is the National Assembly passing it into law, you say that is not what the
National Assembly, the State House of Assembly.
Sorry, I said House of Assembly rather. The State House of Assembly passing it into law. If that is not the focus of the Federal High Court, why will, if they agree with that, I don't understand, why will they fault the governor following the law? Because the governor automatically, if National House of Assembly passed it into law, by default, the governor had to revert to law, to what the State House of Assembly did. So why is the court faulting the governor for that?
Let me break it down like this. The House of Assembly repealed the 1919 law, which created 4 emirates, and under which former Governor Ganduje appointed the 4 emirs. So as at that point, it means there was no emir in Kano. Thereafter, the governor, upon signing the new law, now issued a letter of appointment to Sanusi Lamido. Remember, on this platform, when we discussed this issue, I told you that of Kano, and he was removed at that point. There was a 15th emir, which is the Ado Bayero's son, who is here. He's the 15th emir. This appointment is a fresh appointment given to Sanusi, and that makes him the 16th emir. So the court is drawing a distinction between the law having been passed and the actions of the governor after the court had made an order of injunction to restrain the government and to ask the parties to maintain status quo.
Now, but hold on. Yeah, my own problem is I don't understand why the court will want to stop the governor from performing its legal duty by following the repeal from the State House of Assembly. So that is my point. Why is that court injunction valid? Why should it be? Why should we take it seriously? Or why should the governor take it seriously?
There are some things here that are not clear to most of us. The timeline for the various actions, that is when the governor signed the new law, because as soon as he signed it, he made the appointment. It was almost simultaneously. As he was signing the new law, he was also making the pronouncement that Sanusi was made the 16th emir. So the timeline is difficult to gauge which came first, the court order of injunction or the appointment. The judge claimed that he had listened to the audio recordings of the governor, and in his own opinion, the governor was aware of the court order restraining him and asking for ordering a status quo before making the appointment of Sanusi. So on that basis, he set aside all the actions of the governor that came after the court order. That is according to the court. But the deeper issues of law that are here have not been considered. That is whether the court had jurisdiction to go into this case, being a chieftaincy matter in which fundamental rights issues were subsumed. That issue, the judge transferred to another court because he has been elevated to the Court of Appeal. Now, that creates more controversy, because if you do not have jurisdiction, you do not have the right to make any order in the case. So the very fact that the jurisdiction of the court is being challenged should have cautioned or restrained the court from making any pronouncement on any aspect of the case without first resolving the fact that he had jurisdiction or not. That issue was not resolved by the court. It was transferred to, because the judge is going to become a justice of the Court of Appeal, he can no longer hear the case. He transferred it to another judge of the Federal High Court in Kano. So the issues have not been dealt with. But that order now came in, and people are confusing it as if it is a resolution of the case by the Federal High Court. No, that is the aspect that is confusing people, even we lawyers. We do not expect a court whose jurisdiction is being challenged to make a pronouncement on the subject matter of the substantive suit before it.
Now, this whole confusion is being sustained. Obviously, it's been, I remember when this whole thing happened, everybody cried foul. You lawyers cried foul. People who are not lawyers, who just felt this is just a straightforward thing, especially when it has to do with the jurisdiction. Everybody knows that local government cases are just exclusively that of the first line of action is from the state high court, a sort of, or state courts rather. And so I don't understand now what obviously do you think that the government is involved, that the federal government is involved in this Kano State legal issue or emirate issue?
There is not a question of thinking. There is clear room to say that the governments at both federal and state level in Kano and other powerful interests are involved, are interested, and are actively participating in the legal and political process that is going on in Kano. On the one hand, you have the state government supporting the Emir Sanusi. On the other hand, it appears that federal might has been brought to support the former Emir, that is Ado Bayero. Because as we speak,
sorry to cut you short. Okay, go ahead, finish.
As we speak, after the pronouncement of the court, the government moved to direct the Commissioner of Police to remove the Emir from his mini palace where he's staying. The commissioner has not carried out the order. The government moved bulldozers to go and demolish that mini palace, but the army, the police, and other security agencies have prevented that from being carried out. So you can see clearly that in the first place, what is the business of the army in that kind of situation? They have no business. And it's not the governor that has deployed the army. So it is by extension the federal government that has deployed the army to keep the former emir in his place. Otherwise, the state government would have resolved that issue by now.
Honestly, I don't get it. Both sides are just messing up the system. In the first place, me personally, I am against even when Sanusi was first enthroned during the Jonathan era. I was very, very critical of it, and I still remain critical of it. Now that it's coming back, I still remain. I've not changed from that. My opinion has not changed. So I think the genesis, the problem, the cause of this problem is I think this current governor who just he would have just allowed the entire whatever to lie and to just let it slide. But Kwankwaso, who we know that he's the one actually is the de facto governor, he's the third term governor as far as I'm concerned. He's the one controlling. That guy is just his stooge. What's his name? Is he Yusuf, right? The current president governor is just his stooge to Kwankwaso. Kwankwaso is the one dictating, calling the shots, and he is the one actually destabilizing Kano State. He still wants to maintain. The problem with him is he still wants to maintain that power, that political stronghold that he has over Kano State. And I think that is why the federal government is interested in that in this case, whatever, because it's all about election. It's all about 2027 election. It's all about the political game. It's all about power. That's just the truth. The federal government feel that I think they need that Kano is too strategic, Kano is too sensitive, Kano is too big. Because I think they have the highest number of electoral votes. Do I call them electoral votes? Okay, what do I call them? What do you call them? We call them
votes.
Electoral votes.
Yes. They don't have electoral votes yet.
Yeah, like America. So they have the highest in the country, whatever. They have the highest number of districts, electoral districts, or whatever. So I can understand that. I understand why it's a hotbed for all parties, sort of. But at the same time, my problem with all these leaders is they are so selfish and self-centered and self-seeking that they are bereaved of sensitivity, of empathy. Because at the end of the day, this whole thing will affect the common man on the street, because they are destabilizing the state and the state's economy and everything or whatever. Everybody is on the insecurity. The sense of insecurity there is hampering on so many issues there. A sort of that is just, I don't know. Anyway, we'll come to that, the Bola Tinubu angle of all this whole stuff or whatever.
Let me just add that most of us share the same view you expressed when he was appointed back then. We were not in support. I did not support his appointment by Kwankwaso because it was a political interference, an action directed against the sitting president, Jonathan, that time. It was so brazen, just an open challenge and an attempt to humiliate the sitting president. So we didn't feel good about it then. We felt the politics was carried too much into the process. And in Nigeria today, there's nothing that is insulated from politics in Nigeria. You just heard that in Rivers State, they have removed the chairman of the traditional council of state traditional council, Sergeant Awuse, and they have brought in a new person. So there's nothing here that politics has not permeated and interfered with. So the traditional system is also the same thing. And as you rightly pointed out, what is happening, playing out in Kano today is an attempt to set the stage for 2027 and play out politics against that time. Nothing more than that. And an attempt to also get back at perceived enemies of Kwankwaso and his group. It's as simple as that.
Now, you as a lawyer, where do you see this going legally? The Federal High Court has nullified what the governor did. So, what do you envisage? Where do you see this going?
Legally, there's no dispute. There's no serious controversy on the issue. The Supreme Court has set a precedent on this long ago, just like I told you on this platform the last time. The case of Abba Tukur, who was deposed by Kano Emirate back in 1985 as Emir of Muri. Yeah, okay. It has the same parallel with what is happening in Kano. The Emir rose to the Federal High Court to enforce his fundamental rights. And the matter went from Federal High Court to Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court was very emphatic that this was actually a chieftaincy matter. The claims of arrest, detention, banishment, which are fundamental rights derived from the deposition or removal as an emir. So they were chieftaincy matters for which the Federal High Court has no jurisdiction. This precedent was set long ago. So there should be no controversy. If politics is not interjecting into the legal process, there should be absolutely no controversy legal-wise on this issue. The Federal High Court has no jurisdiction to determine a chieftaincy matter. As long as you determine issues of fundamental rights that go into chieftaincy matters. For instance, if the emir is asking for his fundamental rights to be maintained, including his rights and privileges as an emir, that is a chieftaincy matter. It's no longer a fundamental rights issue. If you grant that order, you are indirectly saying that he should be restored to the emirship. The Federal High Court has no such jurisdiction. So there should be no controversy on the jurisdiction-wise. The fact that it's been dragged up to this time is only an exemplification of the various powerful interests that are struggling on the issue. That is the way I see it.
Yeah, let me ask you, in your own opinion, do you think placing, putting traditional rulers under the whims and caprices or under the authority of the governor of the state is a wise idea? Don't you think that traditional rulers, because they are the ones we've had them even before political establishment, political structure. They have been the one that they have been in every system, all globally. That is the traditional rulers. For even the Western world, it is monarchy. Monarchy was the beginning of leadership, and a sort of. So I don't know what happened, how we actually came to the point where monarchy or that authority was actually relegated to the background, in so much that the political leadership now became lord over the original structure of leadership in a nation. A sort of. So what's your opinion? My opinion, honestly, in my own opinion, I think that our traditional ruler or institution should have a kind of, I don't have a specific thing in mind, an idea in mind, exactly how it can be, but you as a lawyer, you should have a kind of, that is, if you are if you are on my side in this, you should have a way that the law can actually be carved out for just to protect to give them a kind of a level of a level of independence, a sort of, so empower them to actually have probably their own structure, just like we have in the judiciary, where you have the NJC, a sort of or whatever, that the president, okay, even at that, the president can still actually fire including the judges as well, which again, that's another issue again. Honestly, unlike in the US, the president cannot just fire anyone. A sort of. The moment you have nominated the US system, legal system, the moment you are, or political system, the moment the president nominates, that's it. If that person is that person scales through the nomination at the National Assembly, that's it. The president will no longer have an iota of power to take that judge or justice off the bench. Unlike Nigeria, Nigeria is a different system where the president is so powerful, and that's another issue again, that we have to discuss another day, where the president is so powerful to actually send anyone off, a sort of, under normal circumstances. If you say the three arms of government are independent, of course, that's what the Constitution says, I don't understand why the president will actually have that power to sack any judge, either justices or judges, sort of, or whatever. So it doesn't make sense. So back to my point, my question to you: what do you think? Of course, you already know what I think about it, my opinion about that. But what about you? Do you think that the traditional institutions should be immune from all those political tussles here and there? They should be accorded that respect. Don't you think they should be accorded that respect that they have already had from the beginning, inception of every creation, every nation creation? Don't you think that respect should be sustained?
Yes, this question is a very broad one, in the sense that we didn't just get to where we are, where the traditional institution is subjugated to the powers of the governor. We came from somewhere. At one point, in many parts of the country, the traditional rulers were autocrats. They were the equivalent of governors. They had the powers of life and death. They could sentence you to death. They administered land and justice. But it was not satisfactory. They were total dictators. And don't forget, go back to England. If you go back as far back as 1652, in a town called Runnymede, there was a titanic clash between the king and parliament. Then, that's the beginning. You can say that's the beginning of what we even have today. It began in about 1652. The king had always felt that he was above parliament in England. He was above the law. So the struggle between the king and parliament came to a head in 1652. And it was resolved in the parliament when the Chief Justice came to speak on the matter. Because in those days, if no matter the position you hold, to speak boldly against the king or against the interests of the king could attract even a death sentence.
Penalty, yes.
Whoever you are. The Chief Justice spoke eloquently, and that led to the adoption of what we call the Bill of Rights today. You'll be familiar even in the US with what is called the Bill of Rights. That is the genesis of the Bill of Rights. The king was forced to adopt the Bill of Rights, whereby he now pronounced that we, and when he made pronouncement of we, he was referring to the sovereign as king. We will not proceed against any person save by the consent of 12 of his peers. That is the origin of the 12-man jury that we have today. So from there, the parliament stood with the courts and they forced the king to adopt the Bill of Rights, and they started derogating from his power. He no longer had the power to sentence people to death, and other that absolute power he had before. So over time, and from historical perspective, the traditional institution has abused its powers in so many ways. It was a point of trying to also derogate from their absolute power that they were now brought under the present constitution into subjugation to the powers of the governor. Of course, there has been debate as to the need to assign specific roles to the traditional rulers. If you look at the constitution today, there's no specific roles assigned to the traditional rulers. They don't have any specific authority under the constitution. They exist, they're allowed to exist, but at the mercy of the state government and the laws made by the state. So under those laws, the governor appoints them, the governor can remove them, the governor determines the sub-units, that is district heads, for instance. In Kano, for instance, the emir had been appointing, for a long time, the Emirate Council had been appointing district heads all over. The government has now sought to take that power from the emir, further watering down the powers of the emir and its significance. All this is interjection of politics, because they believe a district head controlling a district, when it comes to politics, he is going to help the governor or the political party that the governor belongs to. So let's take this power, let's appoint our people into these places. But by doing that, they have derogated from the power and influence and respect that the traditional institutions have. So it's still an ongoing, even as constitution is being amended, there is still debate. What do we do with traditional rulers? How do we provide specific roles for them so that we can give them some measure of immunity against arbitrariness by the governors? It's an ongoing debate.
Yes, honestly, we need to do that because honestly, naturally, I am naturally, I'm a conservative person when it comes to this leadership of a thing. I admire the monarchy system that we used to have several centuries ago. Honestly, that is what suits. I would say that is what suits Nigeria as a whole. But honestly, Nigeria, the system of governance in Nigeria, obviously not not what we are practicing right now. I don't like it. It's not our system. It doesn't fit us. It is something we cannot run. We just have to carve out our own niche, create our own niche, something that suits our. Obasanjo talked about it in the sometimes last year or whatever, which I absolutely agree with him, that we should find something that fits our own system. We should stop borrowing other people, stop copying other people's way of life, because The West, they created this thing based on their way of life and what suits them. I don't know why we should. That's the problem. Well, that's the problem with copying someone or something. A sort of everything that when something is created or was created, it was actually created based on certain indices. A sort of, but when it comes to copy, some people who are natural copycats, they just copy anything and everything as long as it quenches their insatiable desire of for one thing or the other. A sort of, so it's just unbelievable that Nigeria will just continue in this issue of just constantly sliding, denigrating our traditional institutions. These are people that we are supposed to be revered, and we are supposed to hold them in high esteem, a sort of even better than governors. Traditional institutions were those days were institutions of decorum, of honor and reverence, a sort of and a kind of fear, a sort of. But today, even local government chairmen are even more powerful than traditional rulers of.
I am surprised. I'm surprised coming from somebody like you who is an Igbo man. If a Yoruba man says those kind of things, I will understand. If a Hausa man says those kind of things, because these traditional institutions are rooted in their culture. They are not rooted in the Igbo culture. They are not rooted in my culture. I do not want any human being to elevate himself to what the traditional rulers elevate, dressing on in a kind of this thing to mystify a human being like me, trying to mystify other human beings and accept worship from them is not the sort of thing I support or would call for. Ordinarily, I should.
You see, yes, you see. So I understand where you are coming from. Honestly, okay, yes, I am an Igbo man, but the truth is, my ideas and my ideology actually has been consistently. I've always taken all of this from the Bible. I am actually, like I said, I'm an Igbo man, but honestly, my way of life, my thoughts, my opinion, I also most times are patterned in line with the scriptures. I'm a Bible student, so I've always believed in. I remember when the Israelites wanted to have a king or whatever, God was not happy with them, but he had to give them what they wanted. A sort of that they actually asked for king. They expected he expected them to depend on him in this rulership or whatever. Just appoint someone, ordain, or pick out someone that he wants to, just like Moses or whatever. A sort of. So the truth is, while I understand what you just said, that actually made me laugh because I understand that the irony of it, but the truth is my own concept has always been the biblical way of leadership. And if we're going to by the biblical way of leadership, look, we have the bad side from all, we can talk about the bad side of all system of governance. If you monarchy, you will have a very bad king who is wicked or whatever. We have them in the Bible. Just like we have the good kings in the Bible. We have the very evil king, just like Manasseh and Ahab in the Bible. We have good kings like David and Solomon as well, whatever. So that is the point. Even in relationship, in military governance, military rulership, the same thing. If you have a good military, look at what is happening in Burkina Faso. For God's sake, Burkina Faso is a military. The man took over, whatever. The guy is doing extremely well, for God's sake. He's doing well. He's performing well. He's a military ruler or whatever. He took over when they plotted the first coup plot that took place. It was a democratic system that was enthroned. Why did they dethrone the democratic system? It was because the democratic system was not working for them, a sort of. That is the same problem we're having now. So every system has its own bad. There's no system that is perfect, actually. My own, where I'm coming from is that I rather will go with what God instituted. Because this democracy is the institution of man-made institution.
Even at that, You are forgetting something, that God did not institute kingship in Israel.
Yes,
God gave in to them. God gave in to the demand of the Israelis to have a king. It was not his intention. It was not his plan. Let me learn. God's kingdom and God's plan has always been priestly. Before the appointment of kings in Israel, there were priests that were ruling and judging and exercising justice. It was not God's plan to have kings rule over the people of Israel. It was their insistent demand based on trying to copy
others.
The neighboring tribes that made God to grant them their wish. But it was never God's plan for humanity or for the Jews. God's plan was the way Jesus was the way priest was. It was always priestly. And that is the big and significant difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament. You see, having king now led to the old laws of the Old Testament having to be enacted to take care of the society then. But it was never God's intention that the society should be ruled in that way.
Yeah, okay. I understand that. Of course, clearly, I made that point earlier, that I remember when the Israelites when God asked for king, God was not happy about that. So I made that note clear earlier. But my point is, God's system of, just like you pointed, God, like you noted out, that God actually wanted a priestly kind of leadership. And how is it? The priestly kind of leadership and the monarchical system is, they have the same pattern. It's the same thing. They are far different from democracy, where people will choose. It's the same thing. The priestly leadership and the monarchical leadership is not the people do not play a role in that. Once an institution plays, just one person probably that makes an institution plays the exclusive role. In the case of priestly leadership, it's God. God will appoint someone, ordain or appoint someone for leadership. It's the same thing, only one person. In the case of priestly, God appoints. In the case of kingship, monarchy, it's a chain. This king dies, the son takes over or whatever. It's like that. So it is close to that kingship and God way of it. They are almost the same pattern. That is what I did. That's my own analogy here. Unlike democracy, that people are involved in doing this, and because people are involved in doing this, corruption gets in there. They have to corrupt people to whatever. So anyway, that's not the point. Now, honestly, to round up this topic, the truth is, honestly, just like you pointed out, there should be a system in place to actually shield our traditional rulers, honestly, from this shame, this kind of humiliation, where one small boy, because you have gotten the political power or whatever, will just come and rubbish our traditional institutions. I don't like it, honestly. I don't like it. I'm such a person where, while I am, just like you noted earlier, I'm an Igbo man, but I'm an Igbo man that actually believes in honoring our elders and our traditional institutions. A sort of talking about traditional institutions, you and I know that when it comes to tradition, nobody holds it there. In fact, the Igbos when it comes to, they are the core traditionalists. They are corer than other regions of Nigeria. When it comes to tradition, Igbos don't joke with tradition. They are traditionalists to the core. The Northerners are not traditionalists. What is guiding them is the Quran. It is religion that is guiding them, and that's just they are into that spiritual leadership. So that is what the North does not have tradition. Actually, their tradition is the Quran. So that is just the truth. The West, again, education is taking over so many things in the West. You and I know what's happening with their traditional institutions there too. But the Igbos, when it comes to tradition, the only thing they have issue with is this issue of having to have one voice in the person of a king. That's what Igbos don't so much believe in kingship or whatever. They don't have or whatever. But when it comes to tradition of the land, the tenets, the rules, they don't joke with that, sort of. So honestly, I hope, just like you pointed out that people are discussing it, and I think the government is trying to do something about it. Yes, we need government to do something about it, to actually shield, at least give them a level, no matter how insignificant it may be, at least a level of security, security from that is against political